Hey, Bright Lights, it's Angela, architect, researcher, feng shui practitioner, and I make thoughtly weekly videos about the science behind design for well being. So you don't have to spend all kinds of time or be an expert to know just what to do to make the spaces where you live, work, and play even better. All you have to do is like and subscribe to this channel, and you'll get a notice every time a new video comes out. Now, the way that this works, I have a deck of cards called my Salutogenesis deck that is all about the research that I do. It has two parts: foundational concepts, the things that cause health or dis-ease, and the aspects part, which are five core theories that make up my research in salutogenesis. So every single week, I shuffle the cards. I set an intention that the cards that come out are going to be the message that all of us most need to hear for the week. And then I talk about the two cards I draw together. So every time it is different. So let's go ahead and get started. I do apologize for the echo. I'm in a hotel room because I'm at a conference this week, but I didn't want to not do the video. So the card that came out for our core concepts here is resources to cope. And you can see it is a house of cards that is in the process of blowing away. And that is exactly what happens when we do not have resources. Something that might not otherwise be a very big deal can be very, very devastating to us. I like to use the analogy that what would you do if you had to go to work this morning and your car wouldn't start? Most of us are probably fortunate enough that we could call AAA. We could afford to have the car towed to a repair place. We could afford to repair the car, and we could probably work from home or find some way to get a rental car, whatever we needed to do. It might be inconvenient, but we could cope because we have the resources. Now imagine that you own an unreliable car that's much more likely to break down. You have no money to fix it, and your job requires you to be physically on site at work. Now, the same problem with fewer resources means something very devastating could happen. You could lose your job. So, this is what we're talking about. Clearly, the more resources we have, the better we can handle the things that life throws at us. Now, the card that I pulled from the aspects part of the deck is attention restoration theory. Now, this comes from the biophilia alphabet, the suit of biophilia. And biophilia is associated with the wood element. It is all about connectivity, growth, flexibility. And this particular theory is an offshoot of the main biophilia theory, and it has to do with the way that nature can help us to reset ourselves. So you can see in the photo, there's a very strong foreground, middle ground, and background. That is what attention restoration is about. It's about having a depth and a complexity to a view that is going to attract our attention, capture our interest, and allow that reset to take place. So you can see here, the blue sky that is emerging from the clouds represents the way that our brain can clear out fogginess and reset itself. So, what are some ways that we could apply this? Well, clearly, being able to go out, take walks, experience nature are a way, and having views are a way. But we can also do this with art. with images that have a certain depth to them that are going to create our interest. We can do this in setting up a room by layering things in the room. So you might have an accent wall in the back of the room that has things that are going to capture your interest, maybe objects on shelves, artwork on the walls, interesting pieces of sculpture or furniture, things like that that are going to set up a backdrop. And then you may want to think about what's immediately in front of you and what's in that middle distance. So that if you look up from your desk, for example, you have something to look at that resets yourself if you aren't able to look out of a window. So a lot of times people make the mistake if they're having a home office or even at work, having their desk facing the wall. That is not going to help you with attention restoration theory because there's no depth of view. There's nothing to reset. So think about that in rooms that you occupy, classrooms, things like that. Don't have people too close to a wall. Pull them back and set up that layering of space so that they can reset and have their attention reset as well. And of course, it doesn't hurt if we use biophilic elements in that setting that we create. So materials found in nature, you can use woods and stones and glass, things like that. You could certainly use plants. You can use images of nature. You can have a little tabletop water fountain. Anything like that is going to help in bigger public spaces, like say in an atrium or a major intersection or node. You can use obviously much larger kinds of things to do this reset. But just think about doing that because, especially in areas where people are going to be spending a certain amount of time, we need to give them that opportunity to reset really about every 15 to 20 minutes. It does help with focus and concentration. And as we know, that is a big part of being productive and learning. So if we want to give people better resources to do their job, to learn something new, to function at a high level, let's give them the resource to cope of attention restoration. Now, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, if you want to hear even more, make sure you do like and subscribe. That does really help to make sure not only that you get notifications of new videos, but that others can find this channel. So thank you so much for being with me today, for pardoning my slightly unusual setting and the echo, and I will see you next time.